This is Kedarnath, one of the 12 sacred Jyotirlingas. Unlike its counterparts, it sits in total isolation, high in the Himalayas. The environment here is relentlessly hostile. For nearly 6 months of every year, the entire site is entombed in ice and buried under heavy, blinding snow, effectively cut off from the rest of the world. Inside the temple, the deity itself presents a physical anomaly. Rather than a standard icon, it is an irregular, triangular mass of rock. This jagged, humped shape is a stark departure from the smooth, cylindrical geometry that defines a traditional Shiva lingam. The explanation for this specific shape is found in the mythological epilogue of the Mahabharata. The story follows the Pandava brothers after their victory in the Great War. They have secured the throne, but they carry the devastating spiritual weight of the conflict's casualties. This creates a difficult contradiction. How can a war that was sanctioned by the gods as a righteous necessity still result in unpardonable spiritual consequences for those who fought it? The story of Kedarnath is built around this problem. It maps out a journey where traditional religious life fails, forcing the brothers to find a different way to resolve the debt of the war. Following the war, Yudhishthira is crowned king in Hastinapur. He rules with wisdom and prosperity for 40 years. But the peace is interrupted during a post-war review where the 5 brothers sit with Krishna to evaluate the spiritual cost of their victory. They discover a catastrophic imbalance in their spiritual ledger. Despite their righteous intent, the mechanical facts of their actions remain. The charges against them are precise. They committed Brahmahatya, the killing of their gurus and kin. In this karmic physics, their righteous cause grants no immunity. The weight of these actions is locked beyond earthly reparations. Krishna issues a ruling. As a Vaishnava avatar, he cannot pardon these specific transgressions. He informs them only Shiva possesses the authority to clear a debt of this magnitude, directing them to seek his mercy. This marks a shift in the nature of their journey. They must move away from the sphere of social order and duty and enter a rugged landscape where liberation is sought directly from Mahadev. Seeking this absolution requires a total break from their past. They must abandon their royal titles, all of their wealth, and the kingdom itself. Their 40 years of successful rule prove insufficient here. Earthly sovereignty and political power cannot balance a ledger of this spiritual magnitude. The catalyst for their departure is the news that Krishna has relinquished his mortal form and left the world. With their mentors gone, their final psychological anchors to the material world are severed. They execute the protocol of total renunciation. They transfer the throne to Parikshit and leave the capital behind on foot. Their search begins in Kashi, the established spiritual center and primary home of Shiva within civilized society. As the heart of Shiva's earthly domain, Kashi is where a devotee would typically expect to find an audience with the divine. But this phase fails. Shiva deliberately evades them, refusing to grant them presence in the city. The logic of his evasion is simple. Their sins are too deep to be washed away by a standard pilgrimage in the comforts of a populated city. It suggests a spatial logic. When spiritual stains are absolute, civilized devotion is inadequate. Resolution requires an environment extreme enough to strip away the last remains of earthly attachment. The brothers turn north, leaving the safety of the plains to climb into the high-altitude Himalayas. They push into a zone of pure, life-threatening wilderness where human society cannot survive. The physical suffering they endure in this terrain acts as a mandatory filter, demonstrating that their resolve is absolute. It is only within this lethal geography that Yudhishthira finally spots Shiva. Yet even here, Shiva attempts to conceal himself the moment he is recognized. Yudhishthira confronts him directly, acknowledging that their guilt is the reason Shiva hides. He declares that they will not leave these mountains until they have secured his grace. Their journey shows that pushing the mortal body to the absolute brink of survival is the required catalyst to force an audience with the divine. Shiva takes the form of a wild bull, attempting to flee across the mountain slopes. The bull attempts to merge into the earth itself, driving its head and shoulders deep into a crevice between the rocks. Bhima, the strongest of the brothers, physically intercepts the deity, stopping the escape through sheer force. A raw physical struggle follows between the strongest human and the divine form attempting to submerge. As the bull dives forward into the stone, Bhima lunges and grabs its tail. The forces involved are immense, the divine form pulling forward into the mountain, and Bhima pulling back with mortal desperation. The tension results in a violent outcome, the dismemberment of the bull, separating its torso from its head. This moment is the mechanical climax of the story. Their physical intervention represents the final breaking of the barrier between human debt and divine grace. After the struggle, the severed torso of the bull instantly petrifies, turning into a massive, jagged rock. This 3D model maps the geometry of that petrified torso directly onto the triangular shape of the Kedarnath Lingam we see today. The humped, irregular geometry of the stone is the physical evidence of this event, a permanent mark left by the deity in the mountain. From this stone mass, Shiva finally manifests in his true form. He grants the brothers the formal pardon they sought, wiping away the unpardonable sin of Brahmahatya. Shiva then maps out the physical route from this exact coordinate to Swarga, or heaven. This interaction establishes the site as a mukti sthal, a zone of liberation. The logic of this geography is that any devotee who reaches these coordinates with pure intent bypasses the cycle of rebirth. This rule holds true even if the journey is so extreme that it costs the devotee their life. This provides the ultimate structural closure to the epic. It establishes a permanent geographical mechanism where mortals, burdened by the weight of their actions, can be transmuted into liberated souls.